The sun was setting in the west, painting the clouds with hues of orange and purple, as Martha breathed her last breath. Her family gathered around her hospital bed, each holding on to their hope that she would pull through. But fate had other plans for her that day. After a long and fulfilling life of 86 years, Martha's soul had finally departed from her frail body. As the doctors pronounced her dead, a palpable silence descended upon the room, broken only by the rhythmic beeping of the machines that had kept her alive. It was a solemn moment, one filled with grief and the weight of a life well lived. Her children, now grown with lives and families of their own, stood by their mother's bedside, each grappling with the immensity of their loss. There was John, the eldest, a successful lawyer who always admired his mother's strength and resilience. Next was Mary, an artist whose creativity was often sparked by her mother's tales of adventure. And then there was Peter, the youngest, a doctor himself, who had inherited his mother's compassionate heart. Martha's passing was not unexpected. She had been ill for some time, her body weary from a recent surgery and the relentless march of time. The family had made peace with her impending departure, yet nothing could have prepared them for the strange events that unfolded after she was pronounced dead. They prepared to take their final leave. The family noticed something peculiar. The curtains in Martha's room, which had been gently swaying in the evening breeze moments ago, now appeared to be moving on their own. At first they dismissed it as a trick of the light, or perhaps a draft from an open window. But as they watched, the curtains began to form strange patterns, rising and falling in a rhythmic cadence that sent chills down their spines. "Did you see that?" John whispered to his sister, his voice hoarse with disbelief. Mary, who had been staring at the curtains, nodded slowly, her eyes wide with a dawning horror. "I think the house is breathing," she breathed, her voice barely audible. Peter, ever the pragmatist, tried to rationalize what they were seeing. "It's just the air conditioning," he said, although his words lacked conviction even to his own ears. None of them had ever been particularly superstitious, but this was beyond rational explanation. As if to emphasize their point, the curtains suddenly fell dramatically, plunging the room into semi-darkness. A gust of wind, cold and sudden, swept through the room, ruffling their hair and sending a shiver down their spines. Then, from the corner of their eye, they saw it. The rocking chair by the window began to move. At first it was a subtle movement, a slight creaking followed by a slow back-and-forth motion. But as they watched, mesmerized, the rocking grew more pronounced. The chair moved faster, almost as if propelled by an invisible force. This was no longer a trick of the light or a figment of their imagination. Their house, their childhood home, was coming alive. But how and why? Hadn't their mother always told them that houses don't breathe? The family exchanged uneasy glances, their faces pale in the flickering light of the hospital bed. They had never believed in ghosts or the supernatural, yet here they were, witnessing events that defied logic and reason. Suddenly, a faint humming sound filled the room, growing louder by the second. The humming seemed to emanate from the walls themselves, vibrating with an otherworldly energy. The family huddled closer together, seeking solace in their shared bewilderment. They were about to experience something none of them could have ever imagined. And just when they thought it couldn't get any stranger, the humming reached a crescendo, and the walls of the room began to pulsate. Yes, the wallpaper, the very fabric of the room, was breathing. It rose and fell in a pattern that mirrored the rhythmic creaking of the rocking chair. Terror and wonder, locked in a deadly embrace, tightened its icy fingers around their hearts. What was happening to their house? Was it some kind of bizarre, terrifying prank? Or was there something more sinister at play? In the midst of their mounting terror, something unexpected happened. Amidst the chaos, Mary, the artist of the family, found her fear giving way to curiosity. She stepped forward, her eyes shining with a newfound determination. She needed to understand what was happening, not just for herself, but for her siblings as well. Ignoring the prickling unease at the back of her neck, Mary reached out and touched the wall. To her astonishment, it felt warm, almost inviting. As she pressed her palm against it, the humming intensified, and the breathing of the room became more pronounced. It was as if the house itself was responding to her touch. Suddenly, the rocking chair stopped, its eerie back-and-forth motion. The humming ceased, and the breathing of the room slowed until it was barely perceptible. The only sound now was the steady beep of the hospital monitor and the frantic thump of their hearts. The family stood frozen, each lost in their own labyrinth of fear and confusion. The silence was deafening, amplifying their terror. They were trapped in a nightmare from which there seemed to be no escape. Then, as if jolted from a dream, Martha's eldest son John stepped forward. His voice, though shaky, held a newfound resolve. He had always been the leader of the pack, the one who took charge when things went awry. And now, in the face of this unimaginable situation, he was stepping up once again. Turned to his sister, Mary, his eyes filled with gratitude. "You heard it too, right?" he whispered, confirming what they all knew but couldn't quite believe. Mary nodded, her eyes wide and shining in the dim light. "It's our mother," she breathed, a slow smile spreading across her face. They all knew it was true. This wasn't a ghost or a malevolent entity haunting their childhood home. This was their mother, Martha, in her own unique way, saying goodbye. It was her way of letting them know that she was at peace, that her spirit was free. John looked at his siblings, his heart swelling with love and understanding. This was their mother, the woman who had nurtured them, loved them unconditionally, and taught them the values that guided them through life. This was the spirit of their mother that was breathing in their house, a spirit filled with peace and an undying love for her children. As the realization dawned on them, a sense of calm replaced the overwhelming terror. The rocking chair, the breathing walls, the humming of the house, it was all a manifestation of their mother's love. A final goodbye from a soul that had touched theirs in ways both seen and unseen. With newfound peace in their hearts, the family stood in silence, listening to the gentle breathing of the room, each lost in their own thoughts. John, the eldest, remembered his mother's warm embrace, her comforting words in times of trouble. Mary, the artist, recalled the countless stories their mother had told them, tales that had sparked her love for storytelling. And Peter, the youngest, thought of his mother's unwavering support when he decided to pursue medicine. As the minutes ticked by, the breathing of the house gradually slowed until it became still. The silence that followed was no longer terrifying, but comforting. It was as if their mother's spirit, having said its final goodbyes, had finally found its peace.
Ow.
When the first rays of sunlight peeked through the curtains the next morning, the family gathered in the living room of their childhood home. They were still shaken by the events of the previous evening, yet there was a new lightness in their step, a newfound peace in their hearts. They realized that what they had experienced was not just a bizarre occurrence, but a profound connection to their mother that transcended the boundaries of life and death. It was a testament to the enduring power of love and the unique bond they shared with Martha. A bond that continued to breathe life into their souls even after her physical presence had departed. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, casting its warm glow on the house, the family began to disperse. Each carried with them the memory of their mother and the profound experience they had shared. The house, now silent and still, stood as a witness to their love, its walls echoing with the laughter and whispers of a life well lived. For the children of Martha, that house was more than just bricks and mortar. It was a sanctuary of love, a place where their mother's spirit would forever reside. Breathing life into their hearts and reminding them of the boundless power of a mother's love,